Welcome to I Heart Geek.
And welcome to another episode of I Heart Geek. This is my lovely co-host Satomi.
This is my very handsome co-host Dub.
Hey, thanks. And this is I Heart Geek. We found a topic that you guys are going to love today. Now, I don't know if this needs to be a trigger warning. This is not a political discussion, okay? This is not political at all. Because we're trying to stay so far away from politics right now because there's so much to talk about that we'll leave alone. So, no politics here, the politics safe zone. However, this could be offending to some. It's not intentionally offending, but if you guys listen to me, you know I will probably offend you. Just because then Satomi will smooth it all over like butter because she's amazing like that. Does that sound about right, Satomi?
I'm actually surprised that you're giving a trigger warning. I'm like, how is this a trigger warning? But go ahead.
Well, there's things I've talked to a few people about this. I was just in Florida, by the way. Yeah, the people in Florida are wonderful, and I will leave it at that. Nothing else is, but the people are fantastic.
Oh.
But I talked to some people about what we're going to talk about, which is Arrested Development. And some people are like, that's really kind of rude. I'm like, really? Okay. So this will be an interesting, this is why I gave the trigger warning. This is an interesting conversation.
I see. Well, it's a quote unquote Arrested Development of a very specific kind that is actually near and dear to my heart. Exactly. It's instead of Close Encounters of the Third Kind, it's Arrested Development of the Geek kind.
Exactly.
And and I even have opinions about that title too.
Really?
Yeah, but we're going to talk about it.
Okay, I'm actually a little curious now. I don't know if I can think of anything else. Okay, let's talk about what we're kind of going to talk about, if that makes sense at all. It's really early in the morning, guys. Oh my gosh, it's 6 o'clock in the morning for me. Love y'all. Cat butt. Okay, so what really brought this out is Disneyland actually is what started this process in my head of Arrested Development. And there's more adults that go to Disneyland now than kids.
For which a lot is a travesty.
Yeah, for a lot of kids, it isn't a thing that they even want to do anymore. But the adults are taking everything that's geek that we should have had when we were kids and keeping it to the point that the kids don't want it anymore.
Really?
I really think so.
Now, have you looked up these statistics?
I've looked up the Disney. I don't know about the kid. I haven't looked up the statistics on kids not wanting to go to Disneyland because that's an impossible statistic to find.
Well, but I mean that there's more adults going than well, and we have to keep in mind though that sometimes there are, two adults for a single child. So that,
yeah, that's fine.
Too.
But we're seeing a lot of single couples go and single people go to Disneyland now.
Oh, heck yeah.
That are of our age. And I love Disneyland. Okay, so I'm not saying it's wrong to go to Disneyland. Please don't take that. But there is something about us holding on to our hobbies. And no, I'm not judging. You look at my back wall. I got toys all over the place. I am not judging holding on to your stuff a little bit. What I'm judging is where do we, as adults, as responsible adults that are still geeks, where do we draw that line of saying, okay, let's grow up a little bit and pass this on to the kids? Because there's a lot to this that I've been thinking about for a long time. Where do you think is that line, Satomi?
It's funny that you would open with this because I thought we would talk about this part later, but I have given a lot of thought to it. I think where the line is drawn is when that fantasy world becomes more real in the mind than being present in your reality.
That's good.
It's like anything else. You can. So I'm going to start by saying I am a proud geek. I have things that I love, and I believe firmly in feeding the inner child on a regular basis, especially when we're talking, we've had a lot more discussion in recent years about mental health, which I think is so important. And, some of the judgment around, folks who are listening can't see, but my cat is now having a heyday with my microphone. So if you hear some purring, it could be me, but it's probably my cat. But we, we're coming out of the generation that was so work focused, and coming into a generation that is much more aware, much more uh, much more responsible about taking care of their inner child. At the same time, because I think of things like the pandemic, there is a level of people who are behind
Hmm.
in that emotional development because we got stuck. There's a difference between choosing to continue to allow your inner child to thrive and not having the ability to adult.
And that's where the problem I think is lying on this.
Hmm.
We have, I mean, and I'm just talking in the geek culture right now. I'm not talking the general public, even though
Hmm.
I think this is a thing for the general public. I feel like we've nurtured our inner child to the point that we don't know how to adult anymore. And I think society's paying for it a little bit, but my concern more than anything else is, the passing it on. People, they are making content for us now in our 20s,
So when you
30s,
say your
40s.
concern is passing it on, your concern is that what?
The next generation isn't getting it.
The next
Uh,
generation isn't getting.
isn't getting the joy of what we grew up with, and it's not going to be exactly like it. We know that. But I mean, you look at comic books, and this is just a great example for me. Comic
Mhm,
books were, when I was a kid, were made for me. They were made for adolescents, 14 and under.
mhm.
Then you grew out of it. Then you started to enjoy it later when you're late. But they kept kind of that same kind of whimsy and story. Now comic books are made for me again in the
So
20s,
now,
30s, 40s, and they're not making them for kids anymore. And I think that because we refuse to grow up, these kids aren't getting what they need to keep the I want to say
is
hobby, but alive.
it so to keep the geekdoms alive? Is
Yes,
that
yes,
so? Okay,
because
so is the issue that um I'm gonna say it, is the issue for you that maybe the things that we love are going out of style?
I I think this is a um I want to use this word very carefully. Um I feel like this is I don't want to say planned, but it is kind of a plan because they're purposely growing up with stuff.
Hmm.
It's a planned obsolescence. I think they could very easily start making comics for the adolescent again. Because you know all the stuff that we hear about. We have social issues in all our stuff and all that, and that has nothing to do with kids. That has to do with us because we're growing up with it. Stop! It needs to be for kids again. And
So
honestly,
then what happens to the adults who still love it? Because okay, I'm gonna take us away
okay,
from comic books because
okay,
I
it's
think
it's just an easy one for me. Yeah,
it's an easy one for you, but it's one that not everybody can
yeah,
relate to.
I get that.
So I think Harry Potter is probably a really good franchise to look
Hmm.
at because I think one of the incredible successes or one of the things that was so effective about Harry Potter is because he was growing up through the books. We got to follow him and grow with it, even though, I mean, I picked him up as an adult,
Hmm.
but the issues were still, they got more complex as he grew, as things went on. Um, there but there, it still exists for other people
Hmm.
to discover, for younger people to discover, and for it to be passed on to the younger generation. I mean, as a cast member at the Phantom of the Opera, what we saw constantly was there's always a fear with something like a show, any show, TV, film, whatever, a franchise, that people will grow up with it and then they'll leave it behind and it will be finished with its life. Now, what we saw a lot at the show was people who grew up with it, who fell in love with it young, and
Hmm.
then once they had kids, brought their kids. And once they had kids, brought their kids so that they could discover it again.
And that is a
So,
fantastic example of what we need to be doing. And I was going to bring up Phantom,
mhm.
actually, believe it or not, because that was for me. That was from sophomore year to probably the year after my senior year. That was I loved it. That was my thing. And then I grew out of it. And not because it's stupid or anything else, but it was like, okay, well,
No,
it's time to move
that's
on with my
human.
life a
Yeah.
little bit. And then later on, I did introduce my kids to it. And that's the proper way of doing it. There needs to be a demarcation of, and even the Harry Potter. After you grow up with Harry Potter and you're done, you need to put it away. And I'm not saying
I
that
don't agree with that,
okay,
but go ahead.
I'm not saying you have to put it away, but stop trying to get more content for you at this point, because that story's been told. Leave it and let the next generation have it. That's my say.
Yeah.
Yes, this is
Well,
me.
okay, I think probably a good example of that actually happening. Now, it is definitely geared toward a more adult audience, and that I think that does happen actually pretty regularly. Because okay, so I'm gonna spit out my my example. Click toy.
Oh,
And then
wow.
also talk about. I know. I don't want to get saliva on my mic. Thank you. I have to
Appreciate
talk at
that.
this
Thank
thing
you.
almost every day. So for instance, all the reboots that we're seeing. So now, one of my favorite franchises that started way back in the day, Battlestar Galactica, then was reinvented about 10 years ago, right? To great success. What a great series. And it's coming back. It's being reinvented again. So, we are seeing these products, these fantasy worlds. Lord of the Rings, there's another one. There was the animation, blah 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 blah. So, it's not, I don't think it's a matter of that it's not happening. Perhaps it's not happening as much in comics, or maybe you haven't seen it. But you talk about something like the Star Wars world. Now, we complain about a lot that there's, it's a little oversaturated. It's a lot oversaturated. But there have been so many iterations of it that have been pointed and geared toward different ages and different different age demographics. So I think it's there. I think perhaps instead of what instead of bemoaning what has happened with comic books, I think it sounds to me like you're actually sort of doing a call to arms specifically for comics.
Well, for me, that's the important one for me.
Yeah, but I mean,
Yeah.
to ask, are there artists out there who are interested, willing to start creating for kids, to start creating those gate those gateway.
Well, it's not wrong.
Yeah. And and it's funny because I even say that, and it's making me think about what we were talking about earlier, which is, when that fantasy world starts replacing your own world, where that is more important to you. And I mean, we can even,
we are going to hit that because that's something.
Yeah, let's not even get started about like the addictive nature of games, but just creating these incredible, fantastical worlds. What I find interesting is how, so this goes a little bit in for me of when we words. I'm trying to think about how to put this. Yeah, but
it's been like that this morning. Yeah,
it has been like that. It is early. It is early. No excuse. But so much of our entertainment right now is coming off of the backs of existing franchises.
Yeah.
So for instance, all of the shows that are being based on video games. Now, I love it. I think those stories deserve to be told just straight through. You shouldn't have to play through it. I mean, I love playing through it, but you shouldn't have to play through it in order to experience these incredible stories. For me, what's happening is that there's a bit of lack of, well, I don't want to, there's not as much imaginative creation, yeah,
Whistling past the cemetery on that,
yeah,
yeah.
exactly, allowing the human brain to come up with its own fantastical,
Mhm.
wonderful new worlds. Um, because we've gotten so used to depending on outer sources, and you're always, even when you're creating something incredible, you're always influenced by what's outside of you. But we are
Exactly.
living in a space right now where we're actually becoming dependent on something else, to initiate those worlds. Like, we are so afraid
Yeah.
of boredom.
Yeah, exactly,
We are
that's
so afraid of
yeah.
boredom, and
And
that's where
because they
creativity
filled
comes in.
in they filled in
Hmm.
every bit of imagination, it's not for kids anymore. Kids wanna use their imagination. Let's go back to Star Wars for a second.
Hmm.
The Holy Trinity, the only Star Wars. That was made for me. That was made for our generation.
Hmm.
That's mine. Um, I love I love it that my kids like it. They
Hmm.
love the prequels because that's
That's
theirs,
theirs. That was
and I'm
built for them.
completely okay with that. But
Hmm.
what that gave you more, and the new ones don't, I feel like at all. There was so many holes in Star Wars where you had to fill in with your imagination. We talked about Boba Fett for 30 years, and he had 4 words or something.
Uh-huh.
We talked how many years, decades we talked about this because we had to fill in the holes. There's something so magical and special
Mhm.
about them. Why?
You
It
are,
was made for
yeah.
kids. Why did our parents probably not like it? Because they didn't have the imagination anymore, so it's not for them. Now, but the
It's
new
not that
Star
they didn't
Wars,
have the
but
imagination. I
it's
think it's just
different.
it's a
It's
different,
different.
yeah, it's a different
Yeah.
flavor, if you were,
But you
like
put
a
in the
different
new
brand of
stuff,
cereal.
you put in
Hmm.
the new stuff, and this
Hmm.
isn't my Star Wars or Star Wars. But there isn't any holes for imagination. Everything is spoon fed to you, and I think
You,
that's a problem with because of the Arrested Development. Again, make a Star Wars for that I will hate. I want you
hmm.
to make me a Star Wars that I will hate, and my kids will love.
Hmm.
That's what I want you to make me.
Something that
You know,
sparks the
something
imagination,
for kids. It's not for
allows
me
that world
anymore.
to be bigger. Yeah.
And if I can open myself up to it and enjoy it, awesome. That's great. But I don't want to be your primary target. And I think that's where
Hmm.
that's what my call to arms for the geek world.
So,
Yes, make it,
but
and we'll
so
still enjoy it.
things like The Descendants, which is definitely made for, it's like that's
That's
sort of
for
the
kids. I
tween.
hate it, and that's for my
Um,
kids.
Yeah, but I mean that's an example of something that is happening, that is for kids. Paw Patrol, all of that. They're creating worlds that are for kids.
Hmm.
What you're reminding me of is, okay, Sesame Street fans back in the day,
Kids
back
hated it.
in the
Yep.
day. No, kids love it.
No,
Kids love
my
it.
kids
It's
hated
changed. Oh, your kids hated it.
it.
Okay. But back in the day, Mr. Snuffleupagus, you couldn't see him. He
Hmm.
was the imaginary friend. Now I understand why they made him seen. It was because, we were in a time when, um well, not just in general, it's just understanding that sometimes kids really do need to be believed and not just brushed
Hmm.
aside. And that's where the impetus came from, and I understand it. But I will say I was actually really disappointed by it, because it there is an element of, I think it would have been more interesting if they had now, hindsight 2020. I'm not blaming them for this decision. It was made from a very good place. But it would have been more interesting if there was an adult who went ahead and went along with it. Um, the Because for me, my personal child self, um, that was a special, just that was, like you said,
Hmm.
just for kids. Mr. Snuffleupagus was somebody that only the kids could see. That only it was really special. It's like the doctor. You can't know his name except for children,
Yeah.
and if they listen. Or I can't remember what exactly the line was, but it was like, if the moon is right and they listen, then children can know your name. It's that specialness. It's
Hmm.
that feeling like you are in the club,
Yeah.
like you got a pass, you got your golden ticket.
Hmm.
And right now, and I understand again, I understand the impetus for, because I very much function this way, that you want everybody to feel like they can be part of the club. You know, all are welcome.
Yay! No.
But at the same time, there's really something spectacular about being. I still get a thrill when I get to walk into, backstage,
Hmm.
where it's like I get to go backstage because only some people get to go backstage. So there's something for there. I understand that there's something there where, that should be just for kids.
Yeah. Kids need to
And
feel special.
yes,
They
and
really do. And I don't
it
think the
exists.
society gives it as much.
It exists, but yes, I think some of our geek cultures, some of our geekdoms have become the gatekeeping has become
Oh,
a
God.
fortress,
Yeah.
and we have to remember that there are imaginations. But okay, I'm going to challenge you, Deb. I'm
Okay.
going to challenge you.
Okay.
When you're bringing in kids like that to a franchise that you know and love, they're going to change stuff.
I'm okay with it. As
Are
long as
you
it is
really? Because you haven't
wait,
always
listen.
been. Because
You're right.
because if it's not canon,
Well, okay. Don't
and
mess
I
with
understand that. I totally get that.
here's
I
the
totally
deal.
get that.
Don't
But
mess with my Star Wars. You can have your own, but
like create a new one.
make it for kids.
Create a
As I
story.
say,
Okay.
this is my
Okay.
issue with everything is they're
Mhm.
trying to make it for me, and it's not. Well, I mean, a lot of stuff I get pissed because it's not for me, and it's marketed towards me. But I want you to make a Star Wars for my kids and my kids' kids. I don't
Right.
want I mean, yes,
Because, like, for
I would
instance,
take a good
the
Star Wars for
Acolyte is
me.
not for a 5-year-old. The
No,
Acolyte
it's not.
is for your adults. Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
not. I mean, basically nothing that's been out except for Baby Yoda. That was a shining example of wow, this is for kids. That's good, and that's something everyone can
Now
grab
it's for
onto.
adults too, Dub.
No, it's for kids. You just grabbed on
No,
it. You're
it's
okay with that.
not.
It's okay to. It's okay to as long as the kid is the primary. And that's how I feel on that.
I still don't think that's what that was about. I think Grogu
That was
was
to
to
sell
appeal to
toys.
the that no well, there's that
That
too.
sold
But
$1 billion.
there's that, yes. But I also do feel like that's the part that's calling to the inner child in all of us, and it's also calling to the inner parent.
Yeah.
In all of us.
Well, like Bugs Bunny. Okay, let's go back to a great example.
Bugs Bunny was not just made for children.
I agree, and this is what I want to talk about. Bugs Bunny was primarily made for kids, but it was so smartly written, like Doctor Who, that the parents loved it. But we were the afterthought.
Right.
And I was the kid my parents were the kids at the time.
I don't know if it was that we were the afterthought. I think it was that we're making something that the family can watch together, which means there's something
special
everyone.
about that. Yeah.
Yes.
And there's
I'm okay not with a lot of that. There isn't. That is something we don't have a lot of right now. And a lot of that has to do with, we're in this modern age where the screen is the babysitter. And listen, I am in support of every form families take. I love it because the fact is that, all of us are out here doing the best we can.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. But because we're not living in and I'm going to say it, we're not living in the fantasy of the classic family unit anymore, because that was a fantasy.
I don't agree.
All of the different family
agree,
units
but
existed. They all
I think there is different family units, but and I just want to make a case on this real quick, just because
a lot of them weren't open, but
I think the atomic family does exist and it works well. I'm not saying that everything else doesn't work, but you can't discount that still exists and works well.
I never said that it didn't.
And I didn't.
I never said that it didn't.
It sounded like you did, but and I'm not saying that you did say it. I'm just trying to clarify.
I was saying that it was the illusion that was all that existed.
Okay, that's. I was just trying to clarify. I wasn't trying to.
I mean, Fallout is a great example of that.
I still need to watch it.
Oh, it's great. Oh, it's great.
My kids play the game, so that's for them,
it's just,
not for me.
It's the old school mentality that this is the way it is and everything's fine. And it's like, when you actually look at it, humans are messy. Yeah. Humans are messy and have always been. And we like to, we choose the stories that we like to tell about ourselves. But we digress. So go on to something else. You
Okay,
said
no,
there was other things you wanted
this
to
is what I wanted to hit on with this, and this is what you've been trying to go to for a while.
do.
Okay, so, and I just want to clarify, it's not bad to hold on to your geek stuff. It is not. It's fun. As I say, I would be the world's biggest hypocrite if I was to say it's wrong. I'd say you see my toys in the back, and I mean, I love geek culture. We talk about geek stuff all the time. We do movies, we do all that.
Mhm.
Now, the danger part is with the fantasy, where mental health is a big deal now. People can obsess about some of the geek stuff to the point that they are just escaping, and they're not living anymore. We have so much, especially online. You do not ever have to talk to a human being again. You're
And
talking
you're
to
also not
blips.
necessarily.
And you found a
Uh,
geek thing. You're in that fantasy 24/7. It's not hard to do.
It is not hard to do, and the other thing about online life is that online you get to present. It's like any of the social media. You get to present your idealized form of yourself.
And no one is the way they are online.
No,
Nobody.
no. Even the people who are like up there, like spilling their guts. It's
That's
always
attention.
performative.
Yeah.
It's always performative. Not often not intentionally, but because your brain is
Reward system.
aware of being observed.
Likes. You got
People
likes. Yep.
people we change it. It's just the way we function. We change the way we behave, even if we don't think we're doing it,
Yeah.
because we are being observed.
Well, we're going all over the place.
We are going all over the place.
Which I like this.
But
This
here's
is good.
the thing.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. I'm not dissing the online culture. I'm not dissing,
No.
because I mean, I'm a gamer, for God's sake. I think sometimes it is so important. These can be tools to be able to decompress. But I've totally OD'd on games before. I've turned around and been like, holy smokes, I've been on this game all day. I get out, I go out into the world, and it's like my brain is literally inserting visuals from the game, or like seeing stuff and responding
I did that with
to it
Minecraft.
as
Yeah.
if I were in the me. And
I did that for a
I'm
while.
replaying Horizon Zero Dawn because we talked about it the other day.
I was on
so
it
good.
for like months.
Yeah.
And I think that's okay. I think it's okay to do that every now and again. You need a
now
little
and
escape.
again, but you need
where
a little
is
bit
that
of
line,
escape. Well,
how do you know?
That's going to be. I think some people are going to be better at figuring it out than others. Some people are going to, and this has to do with self-awareness. Let's be honest.
Let's talk a little about that.
Let's be honest. This does have to do with really checking in with yourself. And that takes practice.
Yeah.
That takes practice, because even people who are amazing at it can still get sucked in, because we are wired to imagine. Now and the thing that's really challenging is when someone else does all the imagining for us.
Which we discussed.
Wired, yes, which we discussed. But we are wired to imagine. I want to put out a challenge to anybody who's actually stuck with us until this point in today's show. Because
this is why I gave you a trigger warning.
Yes. Well, and the reason that I was like, no, it's not a trigger warning, is I actually thought that this episode was going in a totally different direction from the very beginning. So
we do that.
I am flying. Well, no, I literally did not know that this was what you wanted to talk about.
Actually, it changed. It changed about a quarter way in. Just so you know.
Okay. All right.
Well,
no. I mean, from the outset, from the first thing out of your mouth, I was like, oh, I was not clear that that's what this show was about. I thought it was about something else.
Okay.
So
I feel bad that I made you excited for that then.
No, it's okay. We'll talk about it another time. You can't stop me.
No.
And now I've forgotten my point, so we can keep going. Go ahead. You did that on purpose. You did that on purpose. Oh yeah, no, the challenge.
Yeah,
so my challenge to anybody who's stuck with us this far: see if you can take a week. A week. The only time you're on a screen is when you have to be, and stay out of your books. Don't read. Don't
Hmm.
none of it. Just be what results is that you suddenly become present. It's
Yeah.
hard. It's like dieting. It's like
Mm-hmm.
dieting. You the first day or two it's going to be itchy and awful. And then something magical happens and it's like the back of your brain blows off and suddenly you start being able to see the world and it's in like technicolor.
Huh.
You start noticing things. You're going to start noticing things you've never noticed, but you'll be walking down the street and be like, oh my gosh, I live right around the corner from that thing and I've never noticed it in my life. Or you might have a, oh, squirrel moment because you did, you just start seeing big
Hmm.
because our vision has gotten so narrow.
That
Take a week off, see what it feels like.
that's
There's your
really
change.
amazing. Actually,
And then
yeah.
message us, comment.
And tell us about it. I want to hear.
Yeah.
This is amazing. After
Mhm.
your week's over. Now we don't talk about religion. We don't talk about politics. However, I'm going to talk about all religions right now. I'm not saying wrong
Okay.
or right.
Okay.
And just going on what you're saying.
Hold on, I'm girding my loins. All right, go ahead.
This is going off of what you're saying.
Uh-huh.
Every single religion has some aspect of fasting in it. What fasting does, depending on your religious persuasion, is it gets you away from everything else so that you can start to see clearly. This is exactly what Satomi's talking about on this. And this is stepping away so you can actually see things clearly again. It's to say, if we can discuss religious dogma later, we're not that's
We
not
don't
what
have
that's
to.
not what this show is.
That's not well, and that's not
what
what
we're at.
that's not actually not what you're talking
But
about.
that's
Because when
not.
you're talking about
But
fasting.
it's why it is important for every religion is because you have to get away from everything. That's part of our human nature.
Well,
When you're
it's
stuck
a tool.
yeah,
It's a tool to get you back in your body.
to who you are.
Mhm.
I don't think most people, and sorry guys, I don't think 99% of us know who we are. I think we've all
Well,
forgotten at some point, at least
I
to some
mean, yeah.
extent.
That's the
And that's not an insult.
That's the human
Yeah.
that's
I
the
think
human
that what you're talking about is
condition.
a fantastic first step back into reality.
Mhm.
And I think that if people would do this once a year, I would say once a
Yeah.
year people would do this, we're not going to have Arrested Development anymore. We're not going to have people that are
Mhm.
just still children.
Disconnected.
Be an adult. Just say,
It's
yes,
it's
have
yeah,
some of
I
your
think
kids'
it's
stuff, but you have to be an adult too.
yeah.
I think
It's
that is
I think
that's
it's a
amazing. I'm sorry, you just made me
difference.
so happy.
Oh, I'm so glad.
That's amazing.
I mean, I talk about this a lot. It's the difference between being childish,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
Wah, I can't get that. Oh my God, I can't play my game.
Hi,
Right?
it's social media. Oh, sorry.
Hi. And childlike.
Yeah.
Oh, P.S. Like some of the stuff you can do if you're taking a break, and I can't take credit for this because I mean this has come from teachers way back in the line. Color, and when I and I don't mean get an adult coloring book. I mean go and get a kid's coloring book from the dime aisle at your local, dollar store or whatever. Get some good old, and I'm not going to name products, but just some good old crayons and color outside the line. Whatever comes
Or don't.
or don't, but
If that's your thing,
I actually highly encourage breaking it because coloring in the line, that is something that is societal. It starts when we're very, very little.
okay.
If you
I'll
are
buy
someone
it.
who is born with that, then coloring outside the line is important to see if you can allow your brain to be freer and break from that. So it's all just play.
Yeah.
But actual play versus when you get into a game, you're plugging in to someone else's world.
Yeah.
Make your own.
Well, like we always, I mean, the biggest insult now, go outside and go touch grass if someone doesn't agree with you on anything. No, actually go do that.
Yeah.
Go talk. Go have a conversation with somebody. In fact,
Someone you don't know.
someone you don't know. Anybody. Go to a coffee shop and talk to a person that's sitting there reading.
Mhm.
Just go. Anybody. It might be a horrible experience. It might be great.
Read the room.
Read the room. Don't. I forget. Yeah,
don't
we're
be
talking about
creepy.
geeks
Read
here.
the room.
Yeah.
Yeah, read the room. Read the
Don't
room.
hit
If they're
on
open to it, awesome.
Don't flirt with someone. Talk to them. Big
Talk
difference
to someone.
there.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
In fact, and here's what I would like to challenge you on. Go talk to a family member that you don't agree with. Talk not online. Wait. Because and I do want to talk about this for a second. Me and Satomi, there's a million things we don't agree with. We've learned how to talk to each other.
That's true.
But if we were to talk online, we'd hate each other because we'd just be. There's
but
something about
family, I don't know if it would work.
I don't know. I think it would.
I don't know. Family's tough. Family's tough because there are, as
we are way in the world. Yeah.
yeah.
Way.
Well, I think it was attributed to the original Buddha, who said something along the lines of, if you think you've reached enlightenment, go home for a week.
That's actually pretty good,
right? And some other people have said, why is your family so good at pushing your buttons? Well, because they put them there. So, I mean, I think having those conversations with a family member is sort of next level. So, if you feel like you're already good at it,
what I would well, my point being is talk to somebody you don't agree with. You don't have to agree with them. You don't have to even talk about the issues that you don't agree with. Learn to be polite to people again.
Oh yeah,
because we're not. And I know this is but this is part of the Arrested Development online life. Is we don't. Mike Tyson said
filter free.
Mike Tyson said in a very, I think, the most beautiful way ever said, people are way too busy, or way too comfortable with mouthing off to somebody without being worried about being punched in the face. But there's something to that.
Yeah, there's something to that. But I mean,
there's also no consequences for spouting off anymore.
Yeah, well, but so that's the violent side. But then
I'm not talking that I am a aggressive guy.
The other side of it is just recognizing that this is a fellow human being who also has feelings, who also, who maybe, I mean, I've literally had people, think they're being helpful, quote unquote helpful, and bring up something that they don't know I have had incredible, like next level personal trauma with. And so it's like just, and I'm sure I've done that to other people as well. And it's because we're human and it happens and that's fine. But kindness, speaking with kindness, you don't have to, it's not the same as being a doormat. I mean, it's not the same as letting people walk over you or not having your power or whatever. I feel that the people who are actually most powerful are the ones who recognize the humanity in other people and come from that space, and then suddenly everybody's listening, not because they're getting banged over a head with it, but because people are drawn to it because they're like, oh, you see me, you accept me, now I feel comfortable to possibly listen, change, we can come to an agreement in the middle, we can work together. It's like
I have never changed one of my opinions because of anything I've read online.
No,
I've changed my opinions because of friends I've had that just normal everyday conversations. That's the only thing that's ever changed my mind on anything. That's the only way I've ever changed anybody's mind, is just being me and talking to people. I'm like, this is what I believe. You don't have to believe in it. This is what I believe and this is why. You don't believe that? Cool. Let's talk about something else. That's great. But that's the only thing that's ever changed my mind on anything. And there's some, I mean, I'm not going to get into it, but there's some huge, political issues or whatever. My mind has been completely blown and changed because someone showed me logic and that they talk to them as people. I've never, ever changed any opinion I've ever had because of anything I read online. So when everyone likes to be keyboard warriors, this person, that person, blah, 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 blah.
You mean
Why?
like opinions at each
Opinion.
other versus
Nobody cares.
yeah. Yep.
You're either preaching to the choir or you're breaking friendships.
Because human beings are emotional creatures.
Exactly. And when we are in that world, we're not in our logic side anymore. We're in our
No.
100% emotional, which again, that's part of the arrested development of our generation. We're not growing
there is
up.
a space for emotion. I think
There is,
emotion is
absolutely, we
incredibly,
need
but
it.
there is balance.
Yes.
There's balance because emotion driven without actual information is just, it feeds itself. It feeds itself. Whereas if you have dialogue, you can, people can have opinions, people can go share information with each other, people can learn. It's not about one person's opinion winning. Sometimes it's about two people with very opposite opinions coming together, looking at actual real live facts and pulling from each other, learning from each other, and recognizing what reality is.
Exactly.
And it usually brings you to the middle, quite frankly, because
Yeah.
when it comes down to it, human beings in general, as opposite as we get, human beings in general have the exact same desires. So it's just a matter of what is going to bring us to that.
Exactly. And that's why, like, behind the scenes, me and Satomi are really good friends because of that.
Yeah, it's true. We'll have conversations,
and we have some conversations
that oh my gosh, that yes. And what I find very interesting is we will have conversations that we will think the other person thinks a certain way.
Exactly.
And it's not true. It's not true. It's just because of the package that we're in. It's like, oh, well, it must be, because again, human brains, we like to stereotype, not because we're bad people. It's because our brains are trying to put everybody in little boxes so that we can function in the world.
Yeah.
We try to categorize so we can go, oh, stay away from that person we can go to for help, that person, it's a way for our brains to navigate life. Right. So it's, I'm not dissing anybody's very, very human behavior. It's when we start to get addicted. Though here's the thing. People have always been, but it's just gotten heightened recently. We're addicted to our own righteousness. We're addicted to fear. We're addicted to drama. And it's not about those fear, drama, blah, blah, blah. It's the adrenaline rush that comes from that. It's getting to go, oh my God, and then this, and then this, and then this, and then this, and blah, 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 blah. And
it's a dopamine hit.
It is a dopamine hit.
Every single time. That's what every like gives you. That's what every time that you think you made a point gets you. That's what, anytime somebody makes you mad online, you get it. And that's what's so addictive, because they say that is worse than heroin. Yep. It's painful to quit.
I've gotten to a point where if I see anything from an advertisement to, an article or whatever that starts giving me that dopamine hit, I'll move away from it. And I'll find the most neutral source of information that I can, so that I can make as clear a decision about what my opinion is as possible. But that's me. That's me.
And a lot of people could take that as a good example. So, yeah, we are so far off topic, we're not even going to try to get back. This conversation actually has been absolutely amazing, and I feel like I just had a therapy session. This has been so good. I really, really enjoyed. Thank you, Satomi. This was such a good conversation.
Thank you, Dub. I really,
so good.
I love hearing you, and I love hearing, just it helps so much. Also, the dichotomy of we've got male, female perspective, we've got different life perspectives, and it's always an education for me, because I have my own assumptions about you that get knocked down all the time, and I love it, because every time I'm like, there it is. You can't judge a book by its cover. You truly cannot.
No, I'm a bald white guy, and I'm not the stereotype. whatever that is. Most bald white guys aren't that stereotype. There's a small amount of people that are.
Because people are so much more complicated than we like to
They
think.
are. And
yeah,
stop it. Just stop it. Stop it. I want to reiterate this. Everybody do what Satomi said. Take a week off. Even if it's not everything, start with one thing.
Yeah.
Say, get off your social media for 1 week. Get off anything for a week. I think that is going, and tell us how it went. Because I think this is, I mean, I feel like I just,
tell us
preached
what
a
you
sermon
ended
on
up
that.
doing instead. When you allowed yourself to get bored.
Yeah, and for you artist types, that's where true inspiration lies, is in the boredom. Just because we didn't have much to do in the 70s, so we made Boba Fett fiction. We all did.
Mary Shelley was stuck in a house with oh God, what's his name? He's the worst. He's like the best and the worst. And a whole bunch. She was stuck in a house with a whole bunch of people, and the weather was terrible because a volcano had erupted, and out of that came Frankenstein. So
let's see what you create.
Boredom makes amazing things happen. What you create, what you end up finish, what project you end up finishing, what thing you're inspired to do, what world that you decide to create that we get to live in because you've created this brand new space for us.
There's nothing that's going to top that. So I'm gonna finish there. I want that to be the last words. Go to our website, www.iheartgeekshow.com. Use the code. We paid extra for it. Instagram, Facebook, whatever. We're there. Talk to us. We talk back.
Toggle that follow button on that automatic download on your podcast. It does all of these things. Help. We are living in a world of algorithms now. So
sadly. But it is what it is. So if you guys want to help us with our algorithm, because you appreciate our conversations, that would mean the world to us. Thank you. It only takes a second. And I know everyone's asking for your seconds, but yeah. Until next time, keep on geeking on, guys.
Keep on geeking on.
You have been listening to the latest episode of the iHeart Geek Show. Make sure you visit our website at www.iheartgeekshow.com. Make sure to follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. And if you check us out on YouTube, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And keep on geeking on to all of you geek rock stars.